Welcome to the How to DIY Carpentry video. Our first project is going to be hanging a door. Make sure you purchase the correct size door for the frame. Place the door into the frame. Most doors will need minor alterations to get a good fit. Using two small wedges, lift the door off the floor. A 2mm gap is required between the door and the frame. Here we've used a 2p piece to gauge the gap. Mark the inside of the door for any planing down. Plane down to the pencil mark. When planing timber, only plane with the grain, never across it. Try the door at intervals until a good fit is achieved. Now rub the planed edge down with a medium-grade glass paper. Mark the position of the hinges onto the door. Square this across with a set square. Now place the hinge onto the door and draw around it with a pencil. Now you want to measure the hinge and transfer half this measurement onto the door. This is the depth at which the hinge will need to be set into the door. Now this area of the door needs to be removed. When using a chisel, make sure that the bottom or flat edge is used to cut into the timber. This will give you a good, straight, clean edge. Also, never use a hammer, only a wooden mallet. Once the perimeter has been cut, turn the chisel over and mark off small areas to be removed. Now don't try and cut it all out in one piece. Now remove small shavings of timber, chop out to the depth as marked, and give the hinge a try. Mark the position of the screw holes onto the door. And drill some small pilot holes, because now you can fit the hinge. Why do we drill the pilot holes? Well, this will stop the door splitting when you screw on the hinge. And of course, repeat the same process with the other hinge. Replace the door back into the frame with the hinges fitted. Mark the position of the hinge onto the door frame. Remove the door. Here we've used the split pin variety of hinges. They're easy to dismantle in order to mark the hinge dimensions onto the door frame. Mark around the edge of the hinge. Remove and chop out as you did with the door. Fix half of the hinge to the door frame. Lift the door into place, lining up the two halves of the hinge. Replace the hinge pins and test the door. Making a bath panel. If you've already got an acrylic panel fitted, take it off. You'll probably find it's screwed to a batten at the bottom. Undo any stabilizing brackets. These are usually bolted to the bath frame. Now, measure the height and width of the panel. Most DIY outlets or merchants will cut the timber to size. That's very handy. It's also important that you use good quality marine ply of about 15mm thickness. Try the timber to make sure the size is correct. Here we need to cut the panel around these two pipes. Mark the center of each pipe onto the panel. Measure and mark the depth of the pipes. With a flat-bladed wood bit, cut 2 holes into the panel. These will eventually fit around the pipes. Square off the outsides with a set square. Now remove this section with a saw. Don't forget to smooth up any rough edges with a medium density glass paper. Check the underside of the bath to see if there are any obstructions. The panel will have to be cut around these. Now, to make things simple, we've marked these onto the bath with a pencil. Then transferred the positions to the panel. Cut any sections out with a tenon saw. Now, fit the panel into position. It'll probably be a tight fit, in which case, knock it into position. Mark across the bottom of the panel where pilot holes will need to be drilled in order to screw the panel onto the batten. We're going to fix some decorative beading to this panel. Mark the top and bottom positions where the beading will be fixed. As most baths run down to the plug hole and are therefore unlevel, square up the lines with a spirit level. Mark the vertical positions for the beading. Again, use the level to mark the panel. Find the center of the panel and square this up vertically with the spirit level. Okay, we've now marked up our panel ready to fix the beading. choose a suitable bead profile. There are lots to choose from, and cut a 45-degree angle using a miter block. Place this on the panel and mark off the position of your other 45-degree angle. Cut this off to size. Knock panel pins into the beading. They'll be a lot easier to fit if you've already started them in the beading. Position the beading on the bath panel, taking care to line it up correctly. Now just knock the pins into the panel, but don't knock them all the way in, just in case they've got to be removed for minor adjustments later. And fix the bottom pieces of bead in exactly the same way. OK, now cut another 45-degree angle and place this onto the panel between the other two lengths of bead. Mark and cut. Always a good idea to use a tenon saw when cutting small decorative timbers like this. Line up carefully and fix in exactly the same way as before. Repeat the same process on the left-hand side of the panel. When you're satisfied that the beading is positioned correctly, the nails can be hammered completely in. To stop the timber splitting, it's advisable to flatten the point off with your hammer. We're going to fix a piece of edging strip to the corner of the bath panel. This will tidy up the rough edge of the plywood on the corner. Sand down with a medium-grade glass paper and decorate to suit your decor. This job can be completed for a fraction of the cost of buying a ready-made bath panel. Fitting a dado rail. First thing, mark a horizontal line around the room at the desired dado height. Use a spirit level to get the line perfectly level. Decide on the size and profile that you want to use. There are various sizes and patterns available. Starting at a suitable point, mark off a length of dado to be cut, noting in which direction the miter needs to be cut. Use a tenon saw and miter block to cut. Smooth down any rough edges with glass paper. Now you can try the dado for size. Position another piece of dado to cut the external 90-degree angle. Again, mark the position of the miter cut, noting the direction. Cut to size as you did before. Now try the two pieces of dado together, checking the accuracy of the miter. As with the bath panel, it's a good idea to at least start the pins or nails in the dado. We're actually fixing the dado up with wallboard adhesive. Once this has dried, the pins can be removed. Line up the dado with your pencil line and knock the pins into the wall. The second piece can be fitted in exactly the same way. Unlike external miters, internal angles are tackled somewhat differently. One of the lengths is cut straight into the corner. Now cut a miter in another length of timber, and with a coping saw cut around the profile of the miter, as we're showing you here. Measure the length that the dado needs to be cut to, and cut it. This can be now knocked into place and fixed. The internal angle is now complete. Now the reason that the internal angle is cut and fixed in this way is that it allows for any movement, that's to say shrinkage or expansion in the timber. Work your way around the room until the job's done. Skirting board is fixed in exactly the same way as the dado, except that it is advisable to drill, plug and screw the walls. Fitting new floorboards. Whilst the floorboards are up, if any central heating pipes are exposed, check to see if they've been insulated. This will help prevent knocking and rattling. Here we're using air felt insulation. If the floorboards have been cut level with the joist, a support for the new boards will have to be fixed to the side. Drill and screw this, don't use nails. Cut the floorboards to length. You may find that new floorboards are slightly thinner in thickness to those which you've taken up, in which case they'll need packing up. Find a suitable timber to pack your boards up with. Fix this with pins to the joists. Now position the boards. Make sure you mark the position of any cables or pipes onto the floorboards. Knock a wedge shape in between the old boards and the new boards, which will tighten up the new boards before fixing. Drill through 2 floorboards, avoiding any marks for cables or pipes, and screw the floorboards down. Now measure the gap to be filled if it's not a full floorboard. Mark off both ends and cut to size. Make sure you cut off the side with the groove, not the side with the tongue. This should now be positioned, knock into place if necessary, and fix by drilling and screwing as before. Tool sharpening. It's inevitable that chisels and planes will need resharpening with use. All you will need to do this is an oil stone and a can of household oil. Apply a quantity of oil to the stone. With a gentle grinding action, the sharp edge can be renewed. Make sure there's plenty of oil on the stone so as to stop any abrasion with the metal. Smooth off the back edge of the chisel. The sharp edge is now ready to reuse. Sharpening a plane is exactly the same. Make sure you familiarize yourself with how the plane comes apart. Sharpen the plane blade on the oil stone. Smooth off the back edge as with the chisel. And don't forget to remove any excess oil off the blade.